I'll always remember my little sister's 4th birthday, but the memory isn't a happy one. It took place at a place that hosts tea parties for kids, where they get to play princess. I didn't want to be a part of it, because I was in 5th grade and wanted to seem tough, not like a little kid. So, I sat in a hallway, engrossed in my DS, when a stranger came up to me. The lady asked, "You're Luna's kid, right?" My mom's name is Luna, so I said yes. She then claimed to be my Aunt Amelia, saying I was probably too young to remember the last time we met. Aunt Amelia began talking about how I had grown and how I was doing in school. This was something that happened often in my family, so I didn't think much of it and gave the usual answers. Aunt Amelia mentioned that she had brought a large dollhouse as a birthday gift and needed help bringing it in from her car. She also said she had another cake and offered me the first slice if I helped her. I was almost 11 at the time, and I had been taught about dangerous situations, but I still trusted Aunt Amelia because she was a woman. So, I agreed to help her and followed her out the back door. As we stepped outside, I noticed the car was still running with a man in the driver's seat. This made me uneasy. Why hadn't Aunt Amelia asked the man, who she called my Uncle Thomas, to help with the dollhouse? And why was the car running when there were empty parking spots nearby? I hesitated and refused to move. Aunt Amelia's friendly tone quickly turned commanding, and she insisted I come to the car. She even tried to grab my jacket sleeve, but I swatted her hand away and yelled at her to stop. Aunt Amelia looked furious, and for a moment, I thought Uncle Thomas was about to get out of the car. Thankfully, at that very moment, my mom and aunt came rushing outside, loudly calling my name. Aunt Amelia and Uncle Thomas quickly drove off. I ran back inside through the back door and met my mom and aunt halfway. I immediately told them what had happened. My mom hugged me, saying she was sorry and that everything would be okay. Meanwhile, my aunt informed the tea room staff, who put the place on lockdown. All the kids were gathered in one room to make sure no one else had gone missing. Fortunately, no one had. The police arrived later to talk to me about what had happened. I shared as much information as I could about Aunt Amelia and Uncle Thomas. The police officers promised to get back to us if they found anything new, but we never heard from them again regarding Aunt Amelia and Uncle Thomas, or whatever their real names were. To this day, we have no idea how Aunt Amelia knew my mom's name. I try to be thankful that I'm safe and avoid thinking about what might have happened if I hadn't trusted my instincts and followed Aunt Amelia to her car's trunk. I will always remember my 20th birthday, but it wasn't a great memory. My uncle has a really fancy house right by the water with a huge backyard and a swimming pool. He was out of town for a month, and he generously let me use his backyard to throw a big party. Since it was my 20th birthday, I wanted to go all out. I invited all my friends and told them to bring their friends too, as long as they brought their own beer. The party started at 9 p.m. My uncle had an amazing surround sound speaker system in the backyard, perfect for parties. I just plugged in my burner phone and played a mix of party music. I made it clear that everyone should stay out of the house unless they needed to use the bathroom. It was strictly a backyard party. As the night went on, I realized there were more people than I had expected. Almost all my friends had brought extra guests with them, and there were even people I didn't recognize coming in groups through the gates. I assumed everyone was invited by someone I knew, but when there were easily over 70 people in the backyard, I started to worry about the cleanup and potential damage. I did my best to keep an eye on who was going in and out of the house, but being the birthday guy, I got easily distracted. The party got even more crowded before it started to slow down, and eventually, the police showed up because several neighbors had complained. I had to tell everyone to leave, except for a select group of my friends. About 10 of us were left outside by the pool, but the numbers dwindled until it was just me and my friend Lucas. My uncle had told me not to let anyone stay over, but I figured it wouldn't hurt if Lucas crashed on the couch since he was blackout drunk and would just pass out. I walked him inside and then went back outside to lock both gates. After that, I locked the back door. By the time I got back inside, Lucas was sprawled out on the living room couch, already fast asleep. Anytime I tried to talk to him to check if he was awake, he just made some half-hearted groans, so I left him be. I checked the bathroom to make sure it wasn't too messy, and apart from a couple of empty beer cans on the counter, it wasn't too bad. I figured the cleanup wouldn't be too terrible the next day with Lucas's help. I went upstairs, intending to sleep in one of the extra bedrooms. I wondered why my uncle had been so strict about not allowing anyone to stay over when there were 4 extra beds in the house. The 2 grand stairways and the giant foyer led to an upstairs balcony that overlooked the foyer. There were several bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and another living area up there. I brushed my teeth using my finger in the upstairs bathroom and then went to sleep. I had drunk a lot, so I fell asleep easily. About an hour later, I woke up feeling extremely nauseous. I had mixed too many types of alcohol. I had to rush to the toilet to throw up. After I was done, I walked back out to the upstairs balcony area, and that's when I heard footsteps coming from the foyer below. I called out, "Lucas!" and I saw a figure in the darkness below stop moving. It felt like they were looking up at me, but it was too dark in the house to see their face or any details. Then, I heard a noise from the living room downstairs, the sound of snoring. It suddenly struck me that the person in the foyer wasn't Lucas. I asked, "Who is that?" I thought maybe it was another party guest who had passed out somewhere earlier from drinking too much. But they didn't answer. I heard more footsteps coming from the kitchen area downstairs, and now my heart was pounding. I said, "I'm going back to sleep," pretending like I thought they were just regular party guests. But in reality, I was going back to the bedroom to lock the door and call 911. But then, I remembered that Lucas was downstairs. I had to warn him. I called his number, and someone picked up, but before I could say anything, I said, "Lucas," 3 times. All I heard was heavy breathing on the other end. I hung up the phone and immediately dialed 911. I was whispering to the 911 operator, and while on the phone, I heard the doorknob to the bedroom door turning. Then, there was a faint knock on the door. I asked the operator if I should announce that I was on the phone with the police, and he said, "No, don't give away your position." I asked about Lucas, and he paused for a moment, as if unsure, and then said to wait in the room until the police arrived. He thought that as long as they believed Lucas was asleep, they probably wouldn't harm him. Even the operator seemed uncertain about what to do in that situation. All I could do was wait in that locked room until the police arrived and dealt with the intruders. The operator informed me that the police were on their way and would try both the front and back doors. The police entered through the back door, which had been left open by whoever these intruders were. Only then was I instructed to go downstairs and meet them. I woke up Lucas, who was still drunk and confused, and explained everything to the police. I searched the house to see if anything was missing, but it wasn't my house, so I didn't know what was there beforehand. It turned out that my uncle's bedroom was locked, and he didn't keep many valuable items lying around in the open. The police searched the entire house before leaving. They said they'd have an officer on the block for the night, which made me feel somewhat safer. I didn't tell my uncle about this incident until he asked about his missing Cartier watch. It had been stolen right from the kitchen drawer by one of the intruders. That's when I had to come clean and tell him the truth. He didn't ask me to reimburse him for the watch, but he also made it clear that I couldn't host any more events at his house. I couldn't blame him for that decision. I'm not a big fan of celebrating my birthday. I'm not the type of person who throws big parties or invites all my friends. My close friends know this about me, so I usually do something more low-key with my family or close friends. One year, something memorable happened on my birthday. After having a nice dinner with my family, 3 of my friends started texting me, trying to make plans to go out and do something special. We were only 20 at the time and didn't have fake IDs, so going to bars was not an option. My friend Michael had a Jeep, and he came up with the idea of going night off-roading on one of the trails about half an hour from our houses. This trail was located in a massive state park, and it was big enough for off-roading. Michael had done it before, even though it wasn't technically allowed, especially after dark. But we figured, since it was late, there wouldn't be anyone around. My birthday falls in June, so the days are long, and it doesn't get dark until around 8 o'clock. We started heading over to the park at that time. My friend Carl brought some weed, and David brought a bottle of vodka to celebrate my birthday. The plan was to hotbox the car in the middle of the woods and have a good time. Michael wouldn't drink since he was driving when we arrived at the entrance to the state park's parking lot. However, since there were no security guards at night, it was easy for us to move one of the cones and drive around it. We just had to keep an eye out for any cops before entering the parking lot. Once we passed the entrance, we found ourselves on a narrow one-way road with woods on either side. This road eventually led to a large open parking lot, which was surrounded by woods on 3 sides and had baseball fields and a playground on the other. Michael knew exactly where to go to get to the trails, even though they were meant for walking. According to him, they were wide enough for our Jeep. Before entering the trail, we made sure there were no cops in the parking lot. Once we were on the trail, Michael turned on the bright headlights for better visibility. Some parts of the trail were bumpy and tight, so Michael had to drive slowly to avoid scraping the car against trees or bushes on either side. After all, these trails weren't designed for vehicles, so we had to be cautious. At first, it was really fun. The bumpy parts of the trail made it feel like we were on an amusement park ride. Carl lit up a joint, and we passed it around. When we had gone deep enough into the woods, Michael turned off the engine and headlights. We sat in the car with the music playing and the bottle of vodka being passed around. The music was loud, so when we all thought we heard something from outside, we went silent and looked at each other in alarm. Michael turned off the music, and we all simultaneously asked, "Did you guys hear that?" We agreed that it sounded like a high-pitched scream. Michael turned the headlights back on, but we didn't see anyone in front of us. We assumed it might have been a female fox, so we relaxed a bit. However, we turned the music down and continued chilling. At one point, my friends sang "Happy Birthday" really loudly as a joke. Eventually, I had to go pee, so I got out of the car and walked a few steps into the woods. While I was midstream, I swear I heard footsteps nearby. I quickly finished and went back to the car, telling my friends about the footsteps. Michael turned on his headlights again, and as the 2 of us in the front seats were the first to scream when we saw a woman standing about 12 feet in front of the car on the side of the trail. She had her hood up and was just standing there. Michael rolled down his window and asked if she was okay. The woman slowly backed into the woods until we couldn't see her anymore. At that moment, Carl, who was in the back seat and pretty zonked out, noticed something horrifying. He yelled, "Guys, we're surrounded." We all started looking around in the woods and saw at least 3 other people, all dressed in sweaters with their hoods up, on different sides of the car. They were all looking at us. Keep in mind that it was a warm June night, so it was strange that they were dressed so warmly. Carl screamed again, and we all turned to see a man standing right outside the back windshield, peering in. The red glow from the taillights created a creepy, eerie atmosphere, and the man had a blank expression on his face. I screamed, "Get us out of here! Just go!" Michael wasted no time. He put the car in drive and sped as fast as he could over the rocky, bumpy trail. We were all freaking out, and it felt like an eternity before we finally reached the pavement again through another exit from the dirt trails. We were all relieved when we hit the road. Michael, who was the most sober among us, told the rest of us, who were either drunk or really high, that we were going straight home. We later wondered if those people in the woods were just a group of young adults hanging out, like we were, but it didn't explain why they were all just silently staring at us and not moving. It also didn't make sense that they were wearing hoodies on a warm summer night. We realized that the scream-like noise we heard probably wasn't a fox, after all, and it might have had something to do with them. Either way, we never entertained the idea of off-roading in those woods at night again. Thank you for joining us for this journey. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. Goodbye.